Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're working from Vivian Howard's Deep Run Roots cookbook, and we're going to be making Grandma Hill's Hoecakes. As always, I'm not going to give you all of the measurements, but if I can find the recipe online, I will link it in the description below. But this is a very simple recipe. And I've been meaning to make it for a while, but I haven't yet. It seems a little bit like an unleavened, flat pancake that is kind of like a hush puppy. So this is all cornmeal. There's no leavening. And we're just going to go ahead and get this made. She said that she's never seen her grandmother make those, but she knows they must be fried. And so she generally she thinks she probably made them beforehand and then heated them up in the oven. We're going to be frying them on the stove and then putting them in the oven to stay warm until we eat, which you can do, she says, if you're going to be eating within about 20 minutes or so. Keep them warm in the oven, set to 200 degrees. So I have my oven set to 200 degrees. I'm going to start with some yellow onion that is sort of roughly chopped, diced. We're going to put this in a blender. She says to use a blender. I'm going to use my Ninja smoothie type container because the whole big thing for this is just too much. And in here we are also going to add some buttermilk. So I have full fat buttermilk. She doesn't particularly ask for that, but that's what I always have on hand. So that's what this is. So if it looks a little thicker than whatever you're using, it's fine. That's why. It also lasts longer, in my opinion. But use what you like. So we're going to puree this until it's a homogeneous liquid. So I don't think there are any lumps left in here. No. This is a pretty good tool for this job because that's, what it is made for, basically. So I've measured my cornmeal in here, and I don't need to add that much to it. I've got some salt. I'm using kosher salt and some granulated sugar. There we go. She says to sift them, but I'm just going to whisk it together because that's basically the same thing. There we go. So now we're going to put all of this in here. There we go. And some of this water, I've measured out the full amount, but she says that to start with, not quite all of it. Actually, she says start with a lot less than that. A lot more than that. We'll start with that. And we're going to whisk it. Since cornmeal does not have gluten in it, you don't really have to worry about overworking this. And I think that seems like plenty. She says you're looking for a slightly loose pancake batter. So that's kind of what it seems like to me. I will keep the rest of that water in case by the time we get this set up to actually cook, it will not be loose, but I think it's pretty loose. So you're going to add as much water as you need for your cornmeal, your conditions. Your onion might be less liquidy than mine was, so there's a lot of variables there. So we're going to get set up over here. I'm going to get my cast iron pan heating on medium heat, and once that is all heated, we'll be ready to cook. So now we're going to drop approximately 2 tablespoons worth near the edge, and hopefully this is going to sizzle. It looks pretty hot, so there we go. That sounds good to me. She says to use a 10-inch skillet, so that's what I'm using. But I think I'm only going to get 3 in here. All right, she says these should kind of flow out by themselves. Mine are not doing that quite so well. That's all right. So I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. What are we looking for? We're looking for it to bubble up around the edges and spatter a little. We had that. Make sure you get as many of them in there as you can. That's not many. She said to put one in the middle. Can't put one in the middle. Cook it on one side for about 3 minutes. So, and lower your heat slightly, which I did. We're supposed to cook it for about 3 minutes. There was some vegetable oil in there. I'm using grapeseed oil, and we'll put a little bit more in between batches as necessary. So we should be seeing some, bubbles come up in the middle, and that will tell us that it should be done on the other side and starting to brown. We'll see. All right, so because mine didn't spread out as much as she indicated it probably should, even though I've got a little liquid sort of pooling on top, I'm going to add a little bit more of this water, and we'll see if the next batch flows a little better. Starting to look a little dry on top, so I'm going to check. It's a little, I think we need a little higher heat here. I mean, it's okay, but I don't think it's quite done. A little brown. All right, we're going to see if we can flip it. It's brown closer to the middle of the pan, so maybe it's just not distributing the heat very well. I did not have my pan heating for a really long time, and I might have gotten it not quite evenly heated. I'm looking forward to tasting this little piece right here that came off. So I'm going to get that turned over. Yeah. I'll probably end up turning these over again just so we get them sort of evenly crispy on both sides. But we're just going to keep cooking these until they get nice and crispy. I'm going to call this batch done, but I think I've decided that I needed it a little thinner. I needed a little more oil in my pan. And I needed the heat a little higher. So I'm going to put these in the oven at 200 so they can stay warm. And we're going to try to see if this batch turns out a little better. A little more oil. Pan is definitely a little hotter. Well, because it's, it's kind of like the pancakes. The first batch never is quite right. So hopefully, I'm going to do these a little shy of the full. And I'm going to, they still aren't spreading out entirely on their own, but I'm going to help them out a little bit. I don't feel like more water would really help that because it doesn't seem like it would. I think that's what more water is doing. It's getting a little extra, it's separating a little bit. It's not really absorbing into the batter. I am not going to be able to make 12 to 16 of these. Okay, I'm going to call this batch done. They're a little better. I don't think I'm going to be getting 12 to 16 out of this mix, but we'll see. So I've decided that when they start looking pretty dry on top, it's about time to turn them over. Could be wrong, could be right. We'll see. With things like this, if I just step away, so I did a little cleanup. And these look a little better, in my opinion. So maybe I am doing it right after all. All right. So that's 11 plus whatever we get out of this, and that'll be close. This one is definitely done. Looks like I'm cooking a little faster over there for sure. That one's done. All right. There we have it, the last one. We're all done cooking Grandma Hill's hoe cakes, so we're going to put these back in the oven at 200 just to keep warm until we're ready to eat. And we'll show you what they all look like and let you know what we think in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make Grandma Hill's hoe cakes from Vivian Howard's first cookbook, Deep Run Roots. We made these, and I was gonna cook them on my my new griddle. I have a new griddle pan, but I didn't. I did the 10-inch cast iron skillet, which is what she said. Now, I feel like from the directions, it was more like a 12-inch, because with the amounts that she said to put in each one, I could only fit 3 in my 10-inch skillet. And the 12-inch skillet, because she says to put them around the edge and then one in the middle. And I could not have fit any in the middle in my 10-inch skillet with the way that these spread, with the 2 tablespoons that she says to use of the batter. You can cook these in whatever you like, but I would rather go ahead and use a larger pan and cook them all sort of in one go. I think I got the minimum that she says. It makes 12 to 16. I made 12, I think, using mine. I might do them a little bit smaller next time. And definitely I would use my griddle pan instead. But we really liked these. They were delicious. I think mine needed a little more salt than the recipe said. And that was, you know, something that you can't really test for until you've actually cooked at least one. And it may be because I do use the Diamond Crystal kosher salt, which, as I say a lot, is a little less salty than something like a table salt, which has more salt per teaspoon, just because the particular Diamond Crystal salt takes up more space for the amount of salt it is. I say that a lot, but it's very important that you get used to your salt, and I think that made a big difference here. So I just salted mine a little. I think my husband ended up, he felt like they needed a dip. They reminded me a lot of a corn stick, which is another cornbread product that is generally not super fluffy, not super sweet, which this was not a fluffy cornbread. It was more like a crispy, thin pancake. There's no leaveners, there's no egg, nothing to make it puff, which was fine with me, but we liked it. we ate them all pretty quickly. I think we had maybe 2 left over and reheated those a little bit in the oven the next day, and it was fine. What she says you can do, if you want to do these ahead of time, you can warm them, and she says in a 375-degree oven for 12 to 15 minutes. Don't microwave them. You do want them a little bit crispy, and yeah, I think they were delicious, and I would certainly make these again. I was a little concerned because it does have onion in it, and my family generally does not like the hush puppy mix with onions in it, which is all I can find right now of the House Autry brand or any other brand around here, and I do not understand. If you know anything about that, let me know what is going on with that. But anyway, but we still liked it just fine, even with the onion. So anyway, if you have made these before, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this recipe. If you like onion or not in your more savory cornmeal products like Hush Puppies or these hoe cakes. And if you've enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week.